Wow. Thanks so much. Thank you. I love you too. And that's why I came by. I really did. I was so looking forward to having we were going to have like a fireside chat or something yesterday, right?
Yeah.
And it got blown up. I got stuck in the Oval Office for about 4 hours. And I kept telling the president I had to go, but we were working on the big, beautiful bill. Okay, so there's nothing more important than that right now. I don't want to bore you on the details of that. I know I've looked at the all-star listing of speakers that you have for these few days, and it's an extraordinary group of people who want to come and be with you and share their thoughts. And I know you probably have gotten and will get some more, a lot of details on all the things we're working on in Congress and the details of the big, beautiful bill and this extraordinary victory that we just achieved with our servicemen and women with this conflict overseas. Yes. I know you'll get a lot of info on that, so I could share some of that with you, but I don't want to be duplicative here. And in fact, I texted Ralph today, and I love Ralph Reed. Ralph is a great model for me. He has been for so many years, and I'm so grateful to you, my friend. But I texted him. I said, I felt so badly about missing yesterday. Is there any time I could just swing by tonight? I've got 3 events back to back. I'm speaking at a couple banquets. Could I just come in and just say hello and say thanks to everybody? He said, sure. And then about 3 minutes ago, he said, you're the keynote tonight. I said, oh, wonderful. That's fantastic. So we're just going to let the Spirit lead here, okay? I'm going to share with you my heart. But let me say this. I want to be an ambassador of hope, because there is, 1 Peter 3:15 says, always be prepared to give an answer for the hope that you have. And we do have the answers, and we are full of hope. But from a very practical sense, I want to tell you, from the political position where we are, why we have great hope for the future of America, okay? We were not expected to hold the House majority in 2024. I know all of you understand that. And I want to tell you, without the Faith and Freedom Coalition, we would not have done it. I know that. I know. God used you, and I worked directly and very closely with Ralph and his top lieutenants. And I mean, knocking on 10 million doors in an election cycle, it might be some sort of world record, I think. I'm sure it is. But I can tell you that no one else did that. And we would not have delivered this majority and be put in this position and defied all the expectations were it not for the work and the prayers and the heart of the people in this room. And so I mean it when I say I'm so grateful to all of you for what you've done. Now we got to do it again. Okay. I mean, I'm telling you, in 2024, in November, the night before the election, there were headlines saying that Republicans are going to lose the House. And I never believed that, because I was traveling around the country nonstop last year. The job of the speaker is that you're in charge of the whole map. And so literally every day that we were not in session, we had to be out around the country. And I was flying to the blue states and the swing districts and places we're not expected to do well. And I was noticing something happening, you all. And you're my friends, and you are at the grassroots, and you will know what I'm about to say is true. I was experiencing what became a true demographic shift in the election. Look, something was happening from California to New York, New Jersey, Florida, wherever I was. We were going to these events, and we were having the traditional crowds, but we were having others come into the camp as well. And after the election, what happened was, because of your hard work and because of the outreach that so many in this room were involved in, we truly did achieve a generational shift in the election. We had a demographic shift. We had a record number of Hispanic and Latino voters who came into the party. That's right. Thank you. We had a record number of Black and African American voters who came into the party as well. That's right. We had a record number of Jewish voters who came into the party with us. Yeah, that's right. A record number of union workers. I mean, all these different demographics, and they came into the party. Listen, here's the key. They came into the party not reluctantly, but with hopeful anticipation. Why? Because the woke, progressive, crazy left them behind. I mean, that's what happened. This is not your father's Democratic Party. And so they came in, and they came with hopeful anticipation. They made a decision to come along with us. I was on the phone with Newt Gingrich the other night. He's a great counselor to me, and he's still the GOAT, in my view. You know, I mean, we were wandering in the wilderness for 40 years without a majority before Newt came around, okay? But Newt said, Mike, I know you're mired in the management of this chaos every day with your tiny little majority and all that you got to deal with. He said, but if you will zoom out for just a moment and look at the historic significance of where we are, this is a true historic moment. He said, listen, Mike, if we deliver for these new demographics of folks, if we demonstrate for them that it truly is our common sense conservative principles that lead to human flourishing, that it's better for individuals and families and communities and states and the nation as a whole, we will hold these new demographics, these new groups of voters, and we can have a durable, governing, conservative majority for a decade or longer. That's how we fix the country. That's right. So we're working on that, and we're going to demonstrate that they made the right choice. The Big Beautiful Bill is a big piece of that. I won't go into all the details, but just know our entire America First agenda is wrapped in this legislation, and this is a prayer request tonight. It is hanging by a thread right now, okay? I mean, seriously, it has been since day one. The Lord spoke to my heart very clearly before I was named in this very circuitous fashion to be the Speaker of the House in October 25th of 2023, and I had this sense that we were going to be coming to a Red Sea moment. I just didn't realize it was going to be every single day. I mean, we worked so hard and we won the majority in 2024 with all your help, and on election night after it was all said and done, we had 220 Republicans and 215 Democrats, and that's small, but that's a majority, man. And I was so thankful, and then I looked up and the president starts culling my herd, right? He starts taking people out of the House and putting them in the admin. I called him up and said, Mr. President, what are you doing? We're down to one vote. I'm so sorry, Mike, did I do that? Yes, you did that. One vote. So listen, for about 90 of the first 100 days of this Congress, we had a one vote margin. I was going back studying the Exodus, you know, and if you, a lot of Bible scholars say that it, you know, we think of like the Charlton Heston movie or the Prince of Egypt, you know, the cartoon where the sea just all parts at once. But you know what a lot of Bible scholars believe? Many of you probably studied this. The water did not part all at once. It parted step by step. It was a moment by moment, step by step reliance upon God and His sovereignty and His power, and that's where we are right now. And so the bill is, there's lots of opinions about this, and I've spent all day long, I probably slept, I don't know, 8 hours this whole week because I'm, you know, babysitting members of Congress, and I'm really not a Speaker of the House. I'm really like a mental health counselor at this point. And bring them in, and we just have intense fellowship, as we say in the Deep South, and we work through their problems and get them to yes. And so that's where we are right now, and it's perilous, but we're going to get this job done. I'm absolutely convinced we're going to be able to deliver on this and demonstrate what we were about. Yes. But the Big Beautiful Bill is a part of the whole agenda to be able to deliver the America First principles, our priorities, restore common sense and our conservative principles in American government, and boy, was it time for that. And then, as I said, we're not done, because our work is never done. We've got to now look to the midterms in 2026, and we're going to need you to do exactly what you did last time, because, wow, this is so important. I want you to imagine if the Republican Party, if we lost our majority in the election in the fall of 2026, you already know what's going to happen. I mean, this Democrat Party, they will impeach President Trump on the first day of the new Congress in January 2027. There's no doubt about it. They've already demonstrated it. They're already filing impeachment articles. So we have to win. Everything's at stake. We have to give President Trump 4 years and not 2. And it takes some time. We're in a real mess as a nation, and it took us a while to get there. It's going to take us a little while to get out of it. So how are we going to win? Let me tell you something. I'm absolutely convinced that we will win, but to do so, we have to defy history. Now, this is a very rare event for a new president to have his party grow or win a majority in that first 2-year midterm cycle after he's elected. A lot of reasons for that we want to unpack tonight, but I'll tell you this. The last time it happened was George W. Bush right after 9/11, okay? Before that, you have to dial back to the 1930s to FDR, all right? Only twice in 90 years has this happened, but you know what? We're the group that defies expectation every day, and we make history. That's right. So as the ambassador of hope that I'm trying to fill this role for you tonight, let me tell you why that is, okay? It's not groundless optimism. It's based in real data. It's really based in faith, okay? But let me tell you what the political scientists say, all right? That all those new demographics I mentioned, we can hold them and we keep them. We demonstrate for them that they made the right choice and they'll stay with us, as Newt said. And we're doing the big, beautiful bill early enough this time. We're not going to make the mistake we made in 2017. We waited too long to do the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. I was a freshman back then walking around kicking rocks. I didn't have anything to say about it. But we waited till like December to do it, and people didn't feel the effects of that until after the midterm election. So we lost our majority. We're not making that mistake this time. Getting it done by July 4th, which is the goal, is key to all of that, right? So all these new demographics will have felt that. They will be experiencing that. The economy this will be like jet fuel to the U.S. economy. We're going to cut taxes, cut regulations, do all the things that we know brought us about the greatest economy in the history of the world prior to COVID, after that first 2 years, the Trump first administration. We're going to do it again. These people are going to be feeling it, and they're going to reward us for that. But I'm going to tell you something else. Beyond just holding the demographics, there's something else. Providentially, we just so happen to have the most favorable election map that we've had in decades. What do I mean by that? As we're enjoying dinner tonight, or you're enjoying dinner tonight, there are 13 House Democrats sitting in districts that President Trump won. Yeah, that's right. It gets better. There's 21 Democrats sitting in districts that he came within 5 points of winning. And conversely, listen to this, there's only 3 House Republicans sitting in districts that Kamala Harris won. All right? So what that means is we have a totally lopsided map. We can go out and defend the swing districts and make sure that they get reelected, but also we're going to play offense, okay? I don't know if this is an appropriate citation of the book of Matthew, but it says, from the time of John the Baptist until today, the kingdom of God has been advancing at the hands of forceful men, and forceful men take hold of it. Can we apply that to politics? I guess I'm going to. That's what we're going to do. And we're going to hold and grow this majority, and then we'll have 4 years and we'll deliver for the people. And let me just tell you something. I got a little over 7 minutes on the clock. Let me get to something that really matters more than all that, okay? As you're seeing demonstrated, and as we all see now play out every day, we're no longer really in a battle between two political parties. We are in a sort of a temporal sense, but as you know, it's much deeper than that. We're in a battle between two completely diametrically opposed worldviews. We're in a battle between two completely different visions for who we are as a nation and who we're going to be. The foundations are being attacked. Psalm 11:3 says, that the foundations be destroyed, what will the righteous do? And that's not just a rhetorical question for us. We've got to answer it in our time. That's why you're here. That's why you're involved in the Faith and Freedom Coalition. I'm so grateful that you are. You understand that. And God blesses our efforts. But it goes to the very core of who we are as a country. I just leave you with this little explanation that I use, and maybe it'd be of some use to you. Because see, I'm very focused on this right now. I think that we need to speak with greater clarity, conviction, and consistency than we ever have before. We do have to have reasons, the answers for why we are hopeful. And I think we need to spend time with the generations behind us. I think a lot of young people have been misled. Now, there's a hunger out there. You're watching what's happening. People really are open and searching for the truth, and we're the ones that can provide it. It's a great time to be alive if you have the answers, and we do. So I think we've got to think creatively about how we present those age-old truths. So when you're a member of Congress, certainly when you're Speaker of the House, you get a lot of opportunities to go and speak at universities and colleges and stuff like that. And we don't really have time to do that, but I try to take as many of those invitations as I can, because I think that's one of the most strategic things we can do. And I know many of you do that as well. But oftentimes I'll be in like a university or college setting, I'll have a big audience like this big auditorium, and I'll begin with this. I'll say, at the beginning of the talk, I'll say, I just want to talk about this incredible country that we have. We're coming up on our 250th anniversary as a nation. Yes, we are. That's not an applause line in university settings right now. Really, sadly. I don't pause there. And I say, hey, can I ask for a show of hands today? I'll say this. You guys don't participate in this. Okay, that's what I do with the kids. When I have a show of hands, would you raise your hand if you agree that you live in the greatest nation in the history of the world? Well, of course, you're all going to raise your hand. But when I ask that in college settings or university settings, you wouldn't be surprised. You'd be saddened. There's only a small number of hands that go up. I say, well, my goodness, if you don't believe you live in the greatest nation in the history of the world, would you at least raise your hand if you believe would you concede you live in a great nation? And just a couple more hands will go up. And so I say, please, put your hands down, listen to me. I'm a constitutional law attorney, I can put on all my evidence here, but I don't have time, just take my word for it. You live in the greatest nation in the history of the world, it's not even close. You live in the most free, the most successful, the most powerful, most benevolent nation that has ever been on the face of the earth. But let me tell you something, young people, if you don't understand why, it will not always be so. Freedom is not inherited in the bloodstream, as Ronald Reagan told us. It's got to be fought for and protected and passed along to the next generation, or they will not have it. I said, well, that's right. So this is what I do. Usually in a setting like that, I'm on a stage and there'll be a whiteboard or a big, something I can write on. I request that, a chalkboard or something. On the whiteboard, I'll go up and I say, I'm going to show you just very simply, very quickly, in 5 words, why you live in the greatest nation in the history of the world. You ready? So I go up and I take a marker. I'm doing this for you because maybe you could do the same thing. So I go up on the board and I write G-O-D, real big at the top. I go halfway down the board and I write the word king, lowercase k. I do a bunch of arrows down and then I write the people / the subjects. So I back up and I look at the board and I say, now, what you're looking at here is what every nation prior to July of 1776 basically subscribed to. It's an old European medieval notion. It's called the divine right of kings. See that most of these nations, these nation states, they believe that there was an almighty, but he's hovering up there somewhere in the sky, and the king, the lowercase k, the earthly king, is the sovereign. And so the king is the one that gives you all your rights and everything that you can do and say and where you can live and how much property you can hold and sometimes who you can marry and what you do for a living, all that. That's all the arrows that come down from the king to the people, / the subjects. I say, so this was the paradigm that everybody lived in until our nation came along. The famous British statesman philosopher G.K. Chesterton said one time, America is the only nation in the world that was founded upon a creed. And he said it's listed with almost theological clarity in the Declaration of Independence. What is the creed? We hold these truths to be self-evident, right? And we say, I always stop there and I go, wait a minute, what is a self-evident truth? It's something that you just have to know. It's common sense, something you cannot not know. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal. Hold on. It doesn't say born equal, it says created equal, okay? Right? We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal. They are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, and among these are the rights of life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. Now, I said that language is probably familiar to you. Probably, I say, in a common modern university setting. It should be, but boy, wow, that was such a revolutionary, dangerous thing to say as a nation. It was profound. Because the men that gathered and wrote that and came up with that language, they were all students of Scripture. They understood the foundational truths. And they recognized that something was wrong with this paradigm on the whiteboard. They were like, wait a minute. Our rights don't come from an earthly king. They come from the King of Kings, okay? And the earthly king, this monarch, he's taken away the freedoms that God himself gave to us. We ought to do something about that. So very simply, I take the eraser, I go up and I say, you know what we did in the Declaration of Independence in 1776? We won our freedom. I take the eraser and I erase king. I erase all the arrows that went down to the people. I erase the word the subjects. Now, the only thing that's on the board now is God and the people. And I draw all the arrows down from God straight to the people. And I said, that is the reason that you live in the greatest nation in the history of the world. That belief, that philosophy. Yes. Listen, young people, I say, the founders were very clear about this. They gave us a grand experiment in self-governance. They did not know how long it was going to last, but they wrote very clearly, they spoke very eloquently about what it would take to keep a republic, to keep a government of, by, and for the people, because that's what it is. Many years later, Abraham Lincoln said, we are dedicated to this proposition that we are one nation under God, a government of, by, and for the people themselves will not perish from the earth. But see, the founders were brilliant. They had insight. They had divine inspiration. And see, they understood that if you're going to set up a government like this that no one had ever done before, you better put some safeguards in it, right? Because if you don't have a middleman, if you don't have an earthly king to sort out our disputes and decide what's going to happen, if men are going to govern themselves, you better recognize these other truths from the Bible. That men are fallen by nature, and that fallen creatures tend to do bad things. And they also recognize that power corrupts, and as Lord Acton said, absolute power corrupts absolutely. So you got to build in checks and balances, separation of powers. You got to put all this in there. George Washington was the father of our country, and he said in his famous farewell address, which we still read on the floor of the Congress on the anniversary of his birthday, he said, he gave us all this advice. He said, watch out for national debt. Oh man, did we mess that one up? Beware of foreign alliances that are, okay. Watch out for, political parties. They might be divisive. We failed all the tests. But he said, of all that, he said, but let me summarize this. Of all the dispositions and habits which lead to political prosperity, religion and morality are indispensable supports. And, well, that's right. John, I'll wrap this up. I'm out of time. I'm getting the flashing zeros there. But John Adams came next, and he said, our Constitution is made only for a moral and religious people. It is wholly inadequate to the government of any other. What do they mean by that? If you're going to have a free society, you have to have a basic moral consensus among the people to allow it to flourish and survive. People have to know they're accountable to something that is more transcendent than the civil authorities, but they're accountable to their Creator himself, the one that gave us those rights. And so they set up this incredible system that we have, our matchless Constitution, this experiment in self-governance that we are now the stewards of. But if we forget the foundations that made us the greatest nation in the history of the world, there is no hope left. I tell the kids, I say, you know what, this is all true, and I unpack that for a lot longer, and I don't have time with you, but you get it. I'm preaching to the honor choir tonight, I know that. So I take the erasure and I say, but you know what the problem is? I want you all to reflect upon this as you leave this afternoon and go back to your classes. I take the eraser and I go up and I say, what's happening right now, what's happened in the last few decades is that we have forgotten the most basic thing, and I erase G-O-D, and I erase all the arrows that go down to the people. And the only thing left on the whiteboard now is the people. So I take the most ominous black marker I can find, and I circle just the people by themselves on the board, and I go, If you think that's a happy circumstance, you are not a student of history. Because you know what that is? You know what that is? That without God on the board, you know what the basis of that? You know where that comes from? That's Marxism. Okay? That's communism, socialism. Because Marxism begins with the premise that there is no God. You know what the thing is? You know what the founders believed about the reason why it's so important that we were made in, that God is the one who gives us our rights? They also recognize from Scripture we're made in God's image. And that means every single person, students, listen to me, every single person has inestimable dignity and value, because your value is not related in any way to the color of your skin or what zip code you live in or what your talents are, what your major is, irrelevant. Your value is inherent because it's given to you by your Creator. That's what that means. However, if Karl Marx was right, and there is no God, you have no inherent value. In fact, if it's just the people themselves, we're in serious trouble, okay? Because that's the basis of communism, socialism, Marxism. All the people are just social animals. You don't have any inherent value. You don't have any inalienable rights. It means whoever is able to gather the power in their hands will become a tyrant, and they will herd you around. You are a social animal in some respect. That's the basis of socialism. You don't have any inherent individual freedom or value or dignity. You're a subject. And that is the path right back into tyranny. So I'm just saying to you, I don't know what your major is and what you're doing here at this university, but you better think hard about what made us the great nation that we are. If we abandon those foundations, you will not have the same liberty, opportunity, and security that your parents have known. It's a very serious thing. And look, I'm way out of time and I got to go, but I want to just say this. We know the moment we're in. We know the providential, historic moment that we're in, and we are not going to take it for granted. We got to be faithful, and I know you will be. It's in the name of the organization. Faith and Freedom Coalition. I'll leave you with this thought because it's my favorite one. John Quincy Adams, our 6th president, right? Yep. Quincy, we got a Quincy fan club here, that's right. Bless you, all right. Yes. Yes, ma'am. I'm coming to visit over there. I'm in the John Quincy fan club, okay? So, you know what I love about him so much? So he was president and then he ran for Congress, which no one's ever done because who would want to be in Congress? But they nicknamed him the Hellhound of Slavery, and you know the story. He ran for Congress. He was so deeply convicted. He was a man of deep faith, and he wanted to eradicate slavery. And he kept bringing the resolution to do it, and it failed over and over and over. And he was sitting in Statuary Hall, what's now Statuary Hall, and we have the little plate on the floor if you come do the tour. I know you've all seen it. And as the story goes, a young member of Congress came up to him on about the 13th failed attempt, and they said, "What, Mr. President, why do you keep bringing the resolution? You know it's going to fail." And he said, "Young man, duty is ours, results are God's." All right? So, Ralph, people ask me every night, are you having fun as Speaker? No, fun? I was 4 inches taller when I became Speaker of the House. They beat me down mercilessly. This is not fun. It's a duty. It's a responsibility, just that all of us feel. But they say you don't seem stressed about this. You seem so calm in the middle of the storm. I am, because I am not the sovereign. And all I am called to be is faithful. I'm called to do my duty, as every single one of us are. And we know that God is in control. And he's got a plan for America, and he's given us a chance to save it, and we will. All right? Thank you for all you do. God bless you. Keep going.